Hello everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Hello listeners, and welcome back to the Spirit Lounge for this very special episode. As always, I'm here alongside my co-pilot, my co-host Glenda. Hello Glenda, how are you?
Hello David, I'm good. How is everyone?
Yeah, we're all good. I'm very excited today, Glenda, actually, because we've got another special guest in the Spirit Lounge with us today. So our guest today is Medium George, who's simply known as George the Medium, based in Glasgow, Scotland. George has been in the industry for 25 plus years, and therefore has a lot of knowledge and experience. And he uses that knowledge and experience to teach and mentor other students through his very own spiritual centre in Glasgow, teaching them a wide variety of topics and subjects, and has produced some fantastic mediums. Although George is very busy in the centre, he still offers private readings and still tours and does other public demonstrations. And on top of that, he also created the Glasgow Spiritual Fair, which is a very popular and busy spiritual event, which offers a wide range of spiritual services and products. But with all of that, he's managed to find the time to talk with us today. So with that said, hello George, and thank you for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today.
Hello David, hi Glenda, how are you?
Oh good,
hey,
how are
George.
you?
Good, thank you, good. Yeah, absolutely buzzing, so excited to be here, so thank you so very much for asking me to be part of this. It's wonderful, thank you. I love just getting to talk about everything about the spooky shit that we do. It's great.
It's so cool.
Say to Glenda, we can read all day long, but actually talking about it and just sharing that, I guess, the education, the knowledge, our experience with people as well, in that real and kind of honest, down to earth kind of way. And that's another reason we brought you on, because we know that you are the same, that you are very much come from that place of reality. I always say, from that place of that, the down to earthness and kind of saying it as it is, and cutting out all the airy fairy nonsense, which we know that is talked about.
Keeping it real. Keeping it real.
No, and there's just so much out there. So no, I appreciate your viewpoint on it, George, because we've spoken a lot in the past.
Yeah.
And actually, it must have been at least 4 years ago that we met in London.
That's right.
4 years.
Wow.
Because I don't know where that time has gone. And having that very similar belief, I suppose. Obviously, you've got a lot more experience, but similar thought processes in the work that we do. So, yeah, so it's lovely to have you here. And I said at the beginning, before we press record, we're going to utilise you and your experience to the max today.
Yeah.
We've got loads of questions. So let's start, I guess, with the obvious one, George, is where was your starting point for mediumship? How did you know that this is something that you were able to do?
So I don't have the kind of traditional backstory that most people who have done this or who are in this movement have had, where they have the childhood experiences and stuff, because I don't remember any of that. Now, it turns out I did have awareness when I was a kid, but for me, it left when I was 9, and I don't retain any memory of that whatsoever. Like I remember bits of my childhood, yes, but I don't remember any of the spooky side of things. So I was 18 and I just not long moved into my own flat, and my great-grandmother had died in 4 weeks to the day. I just had this sensation of the feeling of someone standing up from the end of my bed through the night, and it woke me up. So living on your own in your first flat, you're a little bit scared because you're thinking, well, someone stood up from my bed. Of course, tired, you awoke from sleep, you don't really process it. And I turn around and at the foot of my bed is my great-grandmother. So that's probably the clearest I've ever seen spirit in my entire life was that single moment. And me being really scientific and stuff, I was just thinking I was dreaming. So I just got up out of bed, attempted to walk towards her, and in that moment she was gone. It happened within seconds. Obviously freaked out, stayed up, kind of contemplated like what has happened and tried to kind of in every single way rationalize it and make sense of it to not be something spooky. Because of course, like I liked, spooky programs, but never had any spooky experiences to my knowledge. So started to have these experiences, being around people, picking things up, having all these random thoughts that then seemed intrusive to my own mind. I went to the doctor. The doctor sent me to the psychiatric hospital because I was hearing voices. So I, just became a patient of, seeing a psychiatrist and, being pumped full of medication. And, because I'm hearing voices and that was all I could imagine. And then through time, realized that it really wasn't that. And in my mind, I thought it was, these other people's voices, or it was voices in my head talking to me, but it wasn't psychiatric, So, and that was purely because a friend of mine had moved into my flat with me. And unfortunately, her uncle had been responsible for his own passing. And it was just weeks and weeks. Every time I'm looking at her, I could see a chestnut. And I couldn't understand what. Every time I looked at her for no reason, no context, nothing. There was no reasoning why. Every time I had a conversation with her, there was a chestnut. So this one day I was just like, you know what? I have no idea why I look at you and there's a chestnut. And she just went grey. So it turns out her uncle, who was responsible for his own passing, where he done this, the family collected a chestnut. And that was, symbolism of that moment. And so she said to me, what else? What else? And I swear, if she hadn't encouraged me to do this, I probably would never have done it. I was like, okay. And I was looking and I was like, I can see a face and a clock. And that's all I could say. I was like, there's a face and a clock. And she's like, I don't know. So she goes to her mum's the next day to tell her mum this story. And literally on the wall, there's the clock. And on the opposite side of the wall was a picture of the uncle, and the reflection of the face was in the glass front of the clock. And so she phones, like screaming down the phone, oh my God, you're never going to believe it. And that was kind of the moment stepping into it. Eventually I built confidence in the sense of, I'm going to tell my mum. It was like easier to come out to my mum as being a medium than it was coming out to my mum being gay, I'll be honest with you. So it was one of those moments where I was like, okay. So I said, hey, mum, I think I'm psychic, because I had no other word to describe it. I didn't even know anything about it, so I had no way to define it any other way than being psychic. And she's like, yeah, no. Oh. No. And I'm like, sorry, come again? Psychiatric hospital, George? Like, what now? And she's like, yeah. She's like, you were like that as a kid. It was you and your friends. 2 packets of crisps, 2 drinks of juice. She's like, it was your birthday. Family's running. I'm from a big family. Family running about. George was in the corner talking to his friend that's not there. So it was that kind of was, and my mum said she was really relieved when it stopped because it was becoming a little bit too freaky. And yeah, by the age of about 9, it just stopped. And, and then, my great granny just flicked the switch, and that was the beginning of it all.
And when you talk about not being afraid to tell your mum, maybe you were. I'm sure other people can level with that as well. What was the fear? What was kind of holding you back from telling your mum that this is what you were experiencing?
To really think that, like I was really crazy. Like I just didn't want her to be even more concerned that for me, she was going to psychiatric hospital, she knew I was hearing voices. That was upsetting enough. But to then make it seem so random that all of a sudden, George, who's hearing voices, is now hearing dead people, like that was, so it was the concern of what if she then goes a step further, and what if I'm committed, and what if she gets me sectioned, and and then put into a space with these people who are genuinely crazy, no disrespect, but like people are in the psychiatric ward. And I then realized I don't belong there because I'm not someone, it was then through those, and it was a lot more than just that chestnut story. There was a lot more that had kind of unfolded. So by the time I had really become or started to gain an understanding, and back then there was no internet. So I was going to the library to read books and understand the experiences that people gone before me have had. And so, it was that worry of, oh my God, she could take the responsibility and get me sectioned, like she could then be the person going, actually, no, you are literally genuinely crazy. That was probably the biggest fear.
And where it should be, mum's got my back, Mum won't do anything. Mum, as a child, even if we go and look back that far, we always rely on our parents to kind of, have our back, to look after us, to see the best in us. But back in the day, I'm looking, because I'm 50, I'm like looking at that, it's like you kind of don't know how they're going to react. Nowadays, parents react differently.
Yeah.
Parents are more open, our children are sensitive. But back in the day, it was pretty scary times. So I understand where you're coming from there.
I'm not far off you. I'm 43, and that idea of kind of coming out as somebody who is sensitive, there is that fear, and of course, like, most people don't know someone who is a psychic medium. Most people don't know people like that. You're right. Today, it's like every second or third person, has, and I think maybe some parents really want their kids to be psychic. I think there's a bit more of a push for it.
Yes.
And I'm a bit worried that some kids who are developmental in different ways are being pushed to be this way, that because then it's cool that my kid's gifted too, and they're buying the kids tarot cards at 6 years of age. And I'm just, listen, I believe, let a kid be a kid. Like, let them be themselves first, and then introduce that, because these kids may then blame the spooky stuff for bad behavior, or blame the spirit for doing it, and it's actually them and they're being devious. And so I'm a bit, I know some parents are really encouraging and all that, and listen, for my spiritual fair, kids under 12 go free, because I want them to come in and experience the wellness movement, rather than it all being. But what I do have, and I always have the same woman there, she sells crystals, and they're little like dolphins and platypuses and little elephants and little Buddhas, and they're tiny little things, like $3. And so the thing is, they have that as a kind of safety net. So I always tell parents, like, please come along and know that if they have the fear of the dark, this little dolphin sits at the side of the bed, and it's going to protect them, because their mind is then not the dark. It's thinking of my little dolphin or my little Buddhas, but not throwing a deck of tarot cards and getting them to do readings. It's a complete.
Absolutely. Only the other day, I gifted a dream catcher to a friend's little boy that's having nightmares. I'm not going to go and throw him tarot cards. Really?
Exactly.
The kid needs a safety net. He needs to be, just have that intention set that, you're going to be safe, not give a set of cards to. But you are 100% right. And I agree with you. I have seen so many people push that need for, let them develop. Just let them be kids.
Absolutely. I'm glad that my mum let me be that, though. Sorry, David. I'm glad that my mum let me be that. She let me be a kid and didn't. She just kind of went along with it and never really encouraged it when I was a kid. She said she just let me have my moment. And, she made sure that if I needed to feel safe, that I could tell my friends to go away. Because she was always like, well, you can tell them and they will go away. And it was that kind of positive, affirm in my mind that, I'm in control, according to what, obviously, as I say, I don't remember that. She was like, you're the boss in that. And I love the fact that she done that, rather than encouraging me to go, who are they? What are they telling you, George? What are they saying, George? There's none of that, which was fab.
Yeah, it gets worrying when you see Ouija board sets made for children that you could buy in the shops. I'm like,
I saw that.
What is that about, honestly? I don't think so.
Don't quote me on this. I think it might have been Mattel that actually. Now, I'm probably going to say maybe either the 80s or the 90s that they actually did cut. They had custom boards that were sold in toy shops. Like, and the picture on the cover of the advert is two kids with their hands on the planchette, and it's like, this ain't no game. Like, this is like.
No. I saw it not so long ago in a shop in the UK. I won't say the brand. But a cheap shop in the UK was selling them on the shelf, and I looked at them, and I looked at my other half, and he thought, "What are you doing? Have you seen this?" He doesn't necessarily get it as much as I do, but I thought, "What is going on? What is going on? It's not a game, honestly."
It's not a game.
No. And that's what people seem to think it is. I run seances here. I bought my house that I'm in now is 125 years old, and I run seances, and I run seances for people to experience different forms of spirit. but physical form of spirit, actually seeing things, happen. And we use old methods and new methods. And, when I whip out the Ouija boards, it is like whipping out a gun to people. It is like, it's that because they're terrified. And I'm like, but if you know what you're doing, you have safe practices.
Yes.
I never do anything to people that would make them unsafe. But again, that has more ammunition behind it as a Ouija board than some other things. And people then are going into, haunted locations, the graveyards, are just calling out to spirit. Or the one I always find the most scary is people are having maybe some spooky things going on, and maybe they've moved into an old building, and then they've got the phone out and they're shouting, "Hello, are you there? Show me a sign." And what they're doing is they're calling out to whatever they're calling out to. And I wonder why spooky things start happening in the house, because they're inviting it. And I have a real kind of weird belief on what's safe and what's not safe, because everyone now wants to just grab it for content. Like they don't want to think about people are going to be put in danger. And if, especially people who are adults who are calling out to these entities that are there, and they've got young kids in the house, it's like, I always think it's a really interesting topic to talk about good spirits and bad spirits, because so many people in our movement just believe one or the other and really believe that. And I'm like, well, there's good people and bad people.
Exactly. Yeah. We spoke about that in our last episode, didn't we, Glenda? Yeah.
We did. Yeah. It's funny. George is touching on a lot of things that we spoke about. So he must be psychic.
Somebody said that before.
So George,
go
on. Sorry, Glenda. No, go on.
I don't know. You go.
All right.
I just want to ask a million questions.
No, that's fine. So just coming back to your abilities, I call them abilities, if you don't want to call them a gift or whatever. So if we fast forward a little bit to getting a little bit older, more experience, how did you train your mediumship? How did you develop it? Did it start psychic and go in mediumship, or did you jump straight into the mediumship? What was that? What did that look like for you?
So in the beginning, I had no clue. I was just doing everything and anything, and again reading books. And the weirdest thing happened. My mum kept saying to me, "You need to meet Louise. You need to meet Louise." And so she'd said her friend Louise in work, my mum's new job, she'd met this girl who, up until literally a couple of months before, had been helping, run a spiritual church. And so I was like, okay. And I didn't even know what a spiritual church was. So my mum's like, oh, she used to help run a spiritual church, and she was doing the healing circle, and she's since left. And I keep saying to her, you need to meet my son. You need to meet my son. So anyway, this one day where me and my mum are up in town, and I just hear this voice shouting at my mum. And my mum goes, "That's Louise." So I was like, oh. So my mum takes me over and she's like, "This is George. Like, I want you to meet George." So Louise never knew my name. So she always just knew as my mum kept saying, "My son, my son." So as I met Louise just done this. And I still remember that look of like, oh, she does not like me, right? And actually, to be very honest, we didn't like each other when we first met. We just didn't get on. We rubbed each other up the wrong way. So anyway, it turns out, long story short, that she was this girl who ran the spiritual church. And so she felt the need to leave. And she said to the spirit team, "If I'm leaving here, like, you need to give me a sign of what I have to do. Like, there must be something." And then they showed her me. So she, in the beginning, we sat every week, we sat in my flat. We just sat for the pleasure of spirit, as we would call it. But it was just about her helping me understand, what chakras was, and what energy was, and what the aura was. And because I was, bear in mind that I said there's no internet. So other than the TV shows, and that kind of thing, it was, I didn't know much. So she started to really kind of put all this info, and we would just sit and, what we call now sitting in circle was just us two. And we started to do this kind of building the energy and all that. And so it was a lot of meditation practice, a lot of that, and just sensing. And then what she would do is maybe bring in like a friend who she knew from the church to come in and kind of be for me to then read for them. And she was very good. She's like, "Hey, George is new, like he's developing, like just let him go with it and just let him know." And so it kind of taught me that. And then I went out and I done, I don't know, Glenda, if you do that over where you are, but I used to, but don't do them anymore, house parties. So you would go to someone's house and you would do like a house reading, and you would maybe read for 4 or 6 people, and people would pay you in that. So I done that for 2 years for free. So, and I don't drive.
Wow.
I had suffered, I know we pronounce it agoraphobia in other parts of the world. And I was housebound for 9 months. I didn't go out of my house for 9 months. So then building that to then I got taxis everywhere. So I would just go to people's houses, and I mean, you're not going to, this is so funny. Now I can say this, but I would hold people's hand and close my eyes.
I used to do that.
Isn't it mental when you think about it now?
I know.
Like, how fucking crazy must have we looked, like holding people's hands and just like, you look like you're possessed.
Like a dick.
Exactly.
Really, like honestly, I used to do it, and now I think, oh my God, I can't believe I used to do that.
Thank God they didn't pay me for that back then, because I must have looked like a head case. But there was this whole closing my eyes, and so I'd done that for 2 years. I would go to people's houses, and after my work, and I would go and do these house visits, and it was to build experience on just how to really get practice with random. And people would know, like, they would get my number and it'd be like, hey, you're the guy who does free readings. I'm like, yeah, but I'm practicing. This is for me to develop. And so that's what kind of got me into really sensing the psychic side of things. And I'm going to be honest, I would probably say back then my readings were a mixed bag of psychic and mediumship. Like, I don't think even then I fully understood there was a difference, and that there was a way of actually doing that. And so I for all the years, I could never ever get to meet my spirit guides. I just couldn't get there, and I didn't know how to. I really thought it was way more complex to do it than it actually is. And I'm maybe jumping forward a little bit too much for you guys. Jump back if we need to. But when I met Mavis Patella, that just single-handedly changed everything for me.
Wow.
She was one of my questions for you, actually. Yeah,
oh my gosh, she is just a legend.
You know, it was weird. It was a weekend. It's a former medium friend, and this lady was like, you need to come in this weekend with Mavis. And I was like, okay. And I went along, and this is a really funny story. And so we all had to get up and demonstrate. And I had, at that point, before that, I'd been in a spiritual church, and the women had kind of used me just to make money. And I didn't realize, and I was trying to help. And the woman was, doing these charity events, and then asking me to proofread the letter, and the 900 quid that was meant to be for charity, they were getting 100, and she was pocketing 8 and all that. And so I eventually, through that, I left this other church. So anyway, and that was the first church I was ever involved in as well. So I had kind of started doing my own events, and then I met Mavis, done this weekend, and we got up, and I'd done what I'd done, and she went, okay. She went, so that was 70% psychic. And I was like, what? No. I was like, no, because I was just like, and by the way, let's just be honest, I had no idea who Mavis Patella was. No clue, right? Just no clue. I just went along for this weekend because, this former friend, was, she said, come along, you enjoy it. And I was like, okay. And it was in Scotland, and I was like, that's fine. So when she done that, I was just like, I was like, no, it wasn't. Imagine saying that to Mavis Patella. I'm like, no, it wasn't. And, it was so funny. So she got me back up out of everybody else. She said to the room, you mind if we get George back up? And so what she said to me was, I want you to find 5 pieces of evidence from the spirit world, and nobody in the room's going to talk. And so I did. And she went, now another 5. And so I did. And she was like coaching me going through it. So it was fab. And then she went, okay, what side of the room are you on? There were maybe like 28 people in the room. And I was like, okay. And I said, I was like, I know who I'm with. And she was like, okay. And I was like, I'm with Anne-Marie, because I thought I was with the woman Anne-Marie. And it turns out there was 2 Anne-Maries. And I didn't realize. So these 2 women, Anne-Marie put her hands up. And Mavis is like, okay, another 5. So 20 pieces of evidence before the Anne-Marie who I was with, who wasn't the one I thought, said, I can take all that. And Mavis is like, okay, never another 5. But bear in mind, 10 minutes before I gave 70% psychic. And at that point, there's like 25 pieces of just pure spirit. So Mavis's wife Jean had said, "Hey, we hear that you might be interested in the year's training. Actually, someone who is meant to be coming, we've been told like they won't commit for the full term, and we want people who are going to be there for the full term. So it's 8 weekends in Manchester." And I was like, okay. And I had no idea where the money was going to come from, because you have.
But how is that door opening for you? Like, holy shit. See?
Absolutely. Like, as I say, I had no idea who Mavis was. So I'm just going along for this spooky weekend that my former friend told me about, you know? And I'm in amongst all these people who are from all over the country. And I'm just like, okay. And then Mavis, I always say, Mavis had the jigsaw pieces. She said to me, "You've got the jigsaw pieces, George. I'm just going to help you put them together." Put them together, by Christ, did she? Because she was tough.
Was she?
She was tough. Oh, she was not going to be one of these people that allows anyone to get away with anything. Like, she will drag you over the coals in the best way. And then there was 28 of us at Manchester, and nobody would get up. Weekend one, everyone has to get up and demonstrate. Not one single person wants to get up. Who gets up first? Me. Because I'm like, well, no one else is getting up. So, okay. So, and they filmed them all, and watching it back is really, really strange to watch it back. And to see myself then, and to look at the journey that I've been on since then. And let's be quite honest, that was only 2016.
Yeah. Did she offer some really good advice to you?
Oh, so yes. So what people probably know about Mavis is being this kind of pioneer in the movement, and you know, just being someone who didn't she didn't make it easy for you, because she knew with certain people she could push to a certain level, and you know, and other ones, like, she knew she was very good at just knowing how to approach things in the right way. But she was tough. Like, if she was you're going to have her name beside your name as someone that she mentored.
Yeah.
She's going to push you, and she
didn't want a time waster.
No, not in the slightest. And it was, and the advice and was the jigsaw thing. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest things that I remember. Is I remember saying to her, you know, I don't really know what's going on, and she was like, "Oh," she says, "You've got the jigsaw pieces. I'm just going to help you put them together." But the other parts of advice was just constantly this level of encouragement, like constantly this level of, you know, just being there and fixing things. And I suppose the whole thing is just nudging you in the right direction. I think that's it. There was just constant little bits of her getting you to see more. And I think one of the things that probably stick with me most is I was doing in that very first reading, that first weekend, and I'd done the demonstration, and she went, "Okay." So the woman and the woman, the spirit that I connected with, I had said about giving the woman in the audience I was reading for, one of the fellow students, a ring. And then she said, "Okay, I want you to go back to that ring, and I want you to say to the lady in the spirit world, where is the ring?" And I was like, "Okay." And Mavis was like, "Okay." So I did. And I was like, "Oh, it's in a jewellery box." And she went, "Open the jewellery box." And so the lady in the spirit world opened the jewellery box for me. And Mavis is like, "What do you see?" And I went, "There's 3 rings." And she went, "Perfect. Who are the rings for?" And then it was like depth of evidence. So you're going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And it turns out the ring was for the woman and her 2 sisters. So the gran in the spirit world, I think it was the gran and mum, had left the ring for the 3 girls. But the girl that I read for would have been happy just taking the ring. But the depth of evidence, the golden nuggets, were going in 1 ring, jewellery box, opening the jewellery box, 3 rings, 3 girls. Like that kind of, that for me single-handedly changed everything, though, because it showed me that there was an opportunity for us not to surface skim, that there is so much given in a reading that is just not one singular little thing. And we, you know, "Oh, I've got a lady here, she's giving you a ring." You know, now I've got a gentleman, he comes in and he was a coal miner. But what about the ring? What about the lady? Get her, like, it's okay. And this is what I tell my students. It's okay to stay with one piece of evidence and peel back the layers of the onion, like peel it back and go deeper and deeper and deeper. Whereas nowadays, all these people are doing is surface skimming.
Yeah. I was always taught, and because I was taught by a Scottish medium,
Yeah.
be nosy, get your nose in there.
You've got to be to do this work. You've got to be nosy.
And let's be honest, though, the spirit world don't like nosy. Like you know for a fact, there is no way that people in the spirit world want us to be nosy.
Know everything, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, well, I don't know you, and this is again, we're strangers to these people in the spirit world.
Yeah.
We're random strangers, but then clients come and expect someone who was quiet, withdrawn, who didn't share, who kept everything inside, and all of a sudden the client thinks, oh, my dad who was like that is just going to come in and tell George everything.
Yeah.
Oh, you make such a valid point, because we always talk about the expectations of the sitter, but they don't understand what it's like for us to be the middle person connecting to the complete stranger in spirit who doesn't want to tell us everything. Like they might have been a private person in their life, and here we are being nosy.
Yeah. I'll tell you one of the things that so this happened actually last night. So probably one of the biggest things that I always communicate to people about us and the expectations is we are only as good as our last yes. That's it. We're only as good as our last yes. You could give 8 factual pieces of evidential information that proves the survival of physical death through the information we give. And those 8 pieces could be groundbreaking pieces of evidence. The minute you say something and the client says no, you lose it. You lose the room. You just lose the room. Happened last night. Something weird happened during a demonstration I was doing last night. I was drawn to this couple, and I only work mediumship now. I don't do any psychic work. I don't even know why my guides chose that would be what I was to do, but they just decided, hey, you're no longer doing psychic readings. You're only doing mediumistic stuff, and it's purely spirit. So I don't use any tools. It's just me sitting, behind us, and I'm just connecting with the spirit world, and that's it. I don't do any guidance, any fortune telling, nothing. And so doing that, I'd seen this couple last night, and I was like, I have no idea why I'm drawn to you. All I see is the light between the auric field is just like lit up like a Christmas tree. I don't have anyone in the spirit world. I don't know what's happening. 3 contacts that I'd done before that, we were flying high. It was a wonderful evening, and I don't know what happened. And I just was this lady and gentleman I don't know. And my partner said to me after it, he's like, why did you stay so long? And I was like, because I wanted to know why I was drawn to them. And then there was a gentleman in the spirit world, and the client said, the guy said, well, I didn't know my granddad. And I went, so the information isn't that it's wrong, it's just that you don't know. There's a big Is it about your granddad that he was like this? Or do you not know? And he went, I don't know. And I went, there's a big difference. Huge. Yeah. So, but it tanked the room. Like I mean, literally all the hard work that I'd done up until that point with other clients was out the window, because there you go. You're only as good as your last yes. And the connection with those two was just, I couldn't get it. And there was just whatever was happening. I don't know what happened, but it still reminded me of that lesson. And I thought, I need to remember and say that to you guys today, that we are only as good as our last yes. And I think developing mediums need to remember that. You could give 8 pieces of outstanding evidence, and the minute you get something wrong, a room of 100 people, gone. You lose them. They just pull back and disconnect, because what do? They roll their eyes. Well, they got that wrong. Or you give something common. You say something that is common to I use the joke, can anyone take a John? Because everyone can take a John or a Margaret or a Mary, right? But if we give something common, you see people around the room rolling their eyes. Who can't take a John? And it's dismissive, because that lady's dad that you might be connecting with is called John.
John, exactly, yeah.
So why should we be scared to give evidence? Because then we're then seen to just be in the pool of being general information. And it's not. It could be that it's factually correct, and it's part of the evidence. Not the only piece of evidence, but it's part of the evidence. But we seem to get persecuted by the general public more now, because they just go on TikTok and they can just ask a TikTok medium. I know, Glenda, it does my brain.
Fucking hell. I can't stand that shit. Do you know, I can't even get on TikTok. It makes me sick. They've
No.
ruined it for
Yeah.
decent mediums. They're just making it a spectacle, a joke, and it's just ridiculous. Like, don't get me started. We have a segment we call What Gets on My Fucking Goat, or I call it Fucking Goat, because this does get on my goat.
Yeah.
It's,
So,
listen,
yeah,
it's getting worse. Let's
Yeah.
just say it's getting worse.
it is. I
And
just wonder, where does this go from here? Is there going to be something come in that is going to stop this, or is it going to just keep going until we are doing this as a joke?
Mm.
Where does it go from here? So my question is to you, if you could change something in mediumship, what would that be?
So discipline. So people then understanding that they have to be disciplined in the work that they do, dedication, changing. I would love to see some form of, I don't want to say regulation, because I think it's a dangerous thing, because then who are we regulated under? You know, are we regulated under the Spiritual National Union's rules? Because then their rules are outdated, in my opinion. No disrespect to anyone that's an SNU medium.
No, I agree.
There has to be change, and they have to see why the small independent centres like mine are places where you pull people in, because people feel like they're going to something more, you know, that like that is more churchy and more so they have their form of rules and regulation, whereas I think, should it not be a collective body where we all
Yes.
to put in an idea? And I think, to be honest, I don't think that's ever going to be achieved, because I truly believe that not everybody is going to follow everyone else's rules. So that my biggest thing is that people like us create our own independent centres and allow that through, that we then follow the same practices and educate people.
Yeah.
Let people know this is what psychic work is, this is what mediumship is, this is what healing is, this is what, and break it all down so that it doesn't need to become, it all becomes too lost now in the static. And so you're fighting constantly to try and educate people. And I truly believe things like what you guys are doing here is really about education. Of course, finding someone's story is wonderful, but through that, it's about what's their background. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of mediums now who have a little bit of a name for themselves, they lose their identity. So they sound different. They don't speak like, okay, so I'm from Scotland. So I know working overseas for me, I've got to speak a little bit slower, a little bit better, but I can't lose myself. You know, because I'll tell you what, I'm from a place called Paisley, which is just outside Glasgow originally. So even the way I'm speaking now, I'm trying to speak a little bit more polished, not polished, but a little bit better in my, you know, whereas speaking to my mum, you know, I'm going to be proper, as you would call it, Glaswegian. But then you have people who have marbles in their mouth, in the sense where they forget. And I get that you have to sound a certain way for people to understand you, but you can't lose your authenticity either. You can't.
Absolutely.
Because then if George loses who George is, people are going to see through that shit.
Yeah.
And they're all psychics. They're all going to bloody pick it up and go, that guy's false as fuck, you know? And that's it. Whereas people buy into you both because they buy into who you are and the way that you are as a person, and your passion and your ethics and your morals. All of that is what attract people to you both for a reading, development, events, and so on. And so I think that mediumship, we all have to just be true to the fact that we are doing it for the right reason.
Yes.
You have to make a living for it. If you're like me and it's your full-time gig, I don't have anything else to fall back on. And I think the one thing that I find that people always say, you're always so approachable. And I may piss some people off, so I apologize if saying this next part pisses people off. I don't get, and this is really fucking does my brain in. The media, and I hope none of you two do this, and I don't want to offend you. Do you know when you go and see a medium and they have the front 2 rows as like a VIP?
No, I can't do any of that shit. No.
That's my brain in. And I'll tell you why. Just because they pay an extra $20 on top of the ticket to be a VIP, that person is not any more important than the person sitting behind them who didn't pay the extra $20. So somebody pays $20 a ticket and somebody pays 45 to sit in the front 2 rows, and they get an extra half hour with the medium, right? And it's like, so their 45 is way more important than the person sitting 1 seat behind them. And that fucks me off, because it's like, everyone deserves to be healed. Everyone deserves to have the same level of respect and experience. And I'm sorry, it's all about that. It then is only about the coin. And
always.
Linda, you and I have to make our business, right? I get that. It's our full-time business, right? But at the end of the day, my ethics come into it that I'm not going to have that. Like, it's just not. And all these people are doing it is just for. And then you do the VIP meet and greet afterwards. I'm like, I don't want people to pay money to come and speak to me. Come and say hi.
Yeah.
You want to have a conversation? I'll give you all my time. Don't care whether I'm with half an hour with a person. You deserve my time as much as anyone else. Yeah. But other mediums are like, oh, but you should charge for that. No.
No. As that, it's just, like we always say, spirit doesn't care where you sit in an audience. If spirit are going to find you, they're going to find you, but you shouldn't need to charge people the extra money for that to happen, and which doesn't happen half the time anyway.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So with that, we're talking about the development there, George, and how development is important to us as well, and we know we continually develop. And I know you say that as well. And me and Glenda always gone about these bloody 6-week courses, which people then go on, and then suddenly they're a medium after 6 weeks, which drives us a bit mad as well, because the danger that's within that. So, from your perspective, what is for you, in your opinion, the best way or the most beneficial way to develop as mediums? I know we continue developing, but the initial development of it all.
So it's the dedication and the commitment. They have to make that part. That's the very first thing. When they hit book online and they book that class, that session, that workshop, and so on, it is only about making that commitment. But it's not just making a commitment to the class. It's making a commitment to themselves to show up. It's making a commitment to the spirit world to show up. But it's also about the practices that they put in when they're not at class. So coming to development circle, putting themselves out there, being vulnerable, and saying to a family member, hey, would you mind putting 3 friends together and let me do a little bit of practice? I'm currently training in tarot and I really want to learn and I want to put some practice in. But that's what they don't want to do, because what they want to do is they want to do the 1-day introduction class, and then they're out there and they're charging money for it. Okay. Mm-hmm. For me, it's about the dedication and the commitment and the discipline. First off, like that has to be exactly where they come in at it. And hey, I do a year's training, and it's eight weekends, but those 8 weekends are, like the same as Mavis. It was 8 weekends and it's full days. Like, it's a long ass day. And then I'm like, but you need to show up and come to circle, and you need to come and show up. And then I'm like, do you want to try? I'll put a little get together. I've also got a private group for all my students. They can go in and practice. And so they actually then what I do see is I see the ones who are putting out practice. They put up in those, hey, because what I'll say to them is, put a picture up of your dead relative and see in the comments who can pick things up. Let's try some psychometry with them. Things like that. It is so. I suppose everything about that is the dedication, the discipline, and the commitment. That seems to be the part that's forgotten, because it is.
Yeah.
I do an intuitive tarot class, and people are like, but it's a 1-day class. I'm like, yeah, it's a 1-day class. It's an intensive motherfucking class, and there's a lot to learn, but it's about how to use that intuitively. You get the book, the brand new deck, the book is in the bin, because the book's going to be a ball and chain. It's only going to hold you back. I'm going to teach you how to intuitively tap into that. But then what you need to do is you need to come to class. You need to come to development. You need to practice. I'll set up a random group of people for you. Like, I'll do that. I'll give up my time so that you can come here and do some practice readings. Why not? Bring your deck to circle. You want to practice with your tarot deck. But they don't want to. Not all of them. That's disrespectful. There's a small portion of them. All they want to do is get the name, get the certificate, get the free tarot deck included in the price, and then go out there and make money. And what they're doing is they're going out and they're turning into these TikTok mediums that are full of crap.
But they've got more time to video the stupid reels than they're doing making money or
the
doing
learning as well.
readings or
Yeah.
doing the practice or the development, all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I say to them, you've come to this one day intuitive tarot course. Like, do you genuinely think that that's you? Like, this is just you getting into it. I'm not going to teach someone a year's worth of tarot because it's the most boring shit in the world. I'm not going to go like, oh, the Ace of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles means this, and when it's on the reverse, it means that. Boring. Like, tap into that natural psychic part of yourself, because at the end of the day, the tarot is just an extension of you. The same way a hairstylist, all the talent is up here, but they can't cut hair with their fingers. They need scissors. It's an extension of who they are. A painter, all the talent is in here, but they need a paintbrush to paint. So the tarot is just an extension of that. But a painter doesn't just pick up the brush the first time and know how to paint. A hairdresser doesn't pick up scissors the first time. They put the work in. That's not what's happening. The movement is full of instant turnaround. And it's all about, but I'll give you the start, but I'm also going to support you all along that journey. But I'm also not going to come out every day and go, hey, do you need me to help you today? It's like, no, you come to me and I'll make sure I can facilitate things for you. I'll put practice in. Does that answer your question? I don't know if I have, sorry.
No, I think it's definitely the accountability is missing. Because with that, I've taught courses, and you speak to people afterwards, so what have you done so far? Oh, nothing. Well, you're not going to learn anymore. I can give you those initial tools, but you have the accountability now and the responsibility to take those tools and utilize them, practice them, study more, develop on it more. But I think people are kind of, as you say, skipping that middle part. And then effectively what happens is they just end up causing damage or distress and all those other horror stories, which all three of us have heard from clients who have been through the experience of having a kind of a non-trained or whatever term you want to put on it, person, practitioner giving them that reading, and it does more harm than good at the end of the day, doesn't it? Unfortunately.
Yeah. I make my year's training students too. They get told you have to prepare a 5-minute talk on the pioneers. Everyone, you choose a pioneer from the spiritual movement, and I've got the Spiritual National Union Pioneer deck, and I take a picture of all the cards. I put about 9 in each picture, and I say to them, choose. I'm making it easy for you. I'm giving you someone to find. Find someone. You've got a 5-minute talk to do on that pioneer. And so they all come and they do their talk, or some of them don't, make excuses. And I'm like, it's been 6 weeks since the last time you were here, and you have not had time in 6 weeks to prepare something. You could Google bits, copy and paste the bits you want, and then do your talk, right? It's easy as that. But it shows to me the dedication, the discipline, the commitment. But it's also about, they don't realize it's about them standing in public speaking, how they're holding themselves. So when I start critiquing them and going, okay, when you were doing that, you were slouched. When you were doing that, you turned yourself away. When you were doing that, you were mumbling. And so it's like, it's not just about, we need to learn where we came from. We have to find out the footsteps that were before us that paved the way for where we're at, for good and for bad. We have to know where we came from and the pioneers and what they've done for us to get us to be here. Because let's be honest, at some point, we may be pioneers in the movement. We may be people that people remember. And, people say to me, I've got a small group of advanced students who are part of a teacher training thing that I'm doing, and they're going to be the teachers at the centre here. And I'm not charging them for that. That's a year and a half's worth of training for free, because I see that there's something in them. And we were talking one day and they said, you do know that you are our Mavis?
Yeah.
I was like,
That's
what?
Nice.
Yeah. What Mavis is to you, you are to us. And I never, ever thought of that. I was very, very blessed that, when Mavis passed away, they had a private ceremony, and then they had a ceremony at the Arthur Family College. And Mavis's wife Jean had put it all together, and it was put out that you could apply to be invited to go along. And I always said to my partner Andrew, if Mavis ever passed away, I would love to pay my respects, because she changed everything about the way I work, and she was an incredible part to my life. And I was very fortunate that I was picked to go along. And I know there was a lot of people that didn't get to go, So I went along, and so I've got a gallery wall to the side here in my reading room, and I have the celebration of the life program, and I thought she needs to be there. And actually, I'm going to reach out to Mavis's wife and ask her permission to name the main room in the centre the Mavis Patella Suite. And it's just
Oh,
a
wow.
sense of, but I would want to make sure that I give Jean her place. Like I want to give Jean her place, because at the end of the day, I want to give her because she was a huge part of that as well, because she's an thing. But I want to make sure that I give that sense of respect, because that's how much she meant to me, that I want her name to be remembered. Because I talk about it all the time. Not these movies don't know who she is. And I want that to be remembered, that she meant a lot to me. And I think that, maybe at some point we'll be that to other people, and isn't that a strange thought?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scary.
It really is, isn't it? Because then there's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure.
But then George, you've worked hard for it. You look at you've done how many years? Was it 25 plus years? I think we said at the beginning you've been in the and you're only 21. How did that happen, George? Work
Exactly.
them out.
No. Oh, Jesus Christ. 43. What the hell?
So I'm thinking about coming back to Scotland, UK next year. I'm just going to blow the Arthur Findlay College. I'll just come and stay with you, George. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. This pulls out. This is a guest suite in here, so you're welcome to come. You can do some teaching and some training and some events, make some money while you're here.
Yeah, I'd love to do some more in-depth training, because I don't do that here, platform work. But when I was over there, I got on platform with David and Bill, and it was a great opportunity, because I don't get to do that here. I do a lot of one-to-one. So I'd love to branch out and do more of that over in.
Oh, brilliant. You let me know and I'll make sure there's a course put together for you to come and be part of. Absolutely. And I will be honest, I am tough, but I'm fair. But I have to be truthful with you. I'm tough, but I'm fair. Because when I see that what someone has, my job is to get in and pull that out and make you realize how that you missed an opportunity, how deeper you could go. See, when you do that with someone, you actually get to see that they've been able to find that golden nugget. It is like that dopamine boost that they get to ride on for months and months and months. And you carry that with you. Like you carry that with you for the rest of your time, that you are able to then give someone something that is just life-changing. And
it is.
aren't we lucky? Are we not lucky that we really get to do this job?
Yeah.
Beyond all the shit, right? Beyond all the crap we go through and the persecution and the abuse. Because listen, nobody chooses to be in this profession, because all you then do is get abuse and hate.
Absolutely.
And you're just like, so funny, right? So very recently I've hired 2 assistants to take care of all the admin and the social media and the content and all that stuff, so that I can move on to creating content and video content and do more work that nobody else can do the George the Medium work the way that I do it, because they book a George the Medium event or George the Medium reading, right? So then they're doing that. So I've been training and doing all that. And I had to then say to them, like, I just want you to know, like, you're going to see a lot of hateful comments. Like, you're going to see a lot of horrible things said. And it's purely, and I had to make them aware of it, because they were like, this person's like saying some really nasty things, and like, what do we do then? I'm like, just block them.
Yeah.
I actually love when they come on and be hateful now, because I can just go block. It's dead easy.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. George in his 20s, I wouldn't have dealt with that well.
Yeah.
I would have struggled a lot. Or George knew in his beginning of this journey, if social media was there then, I probably would have really struggled. So I empathise with a lot of other students who are in this, and they're building their brand and building their business, and they're finally taking time, they're putting themselves out there, and they're just hit with hate.
Yeah.
That's why I got the comments turned on TikTok.
I was going to ask about that. Is that the reason why you had them turned off?
Yeah, it's pure hate. It's absolute hate. I made a commitment when I first opened my TikTok account a few years ago that I would post every day at 9 p.m. for the full month of January, just to see what happened, right? And 21 days in, my first video went viral and my comments were turned on. And it just was crazy. It just, the video blew up like crazy, and it just was insane. And I actually deleted my account because I just couldn't handle it. I had a total vulnerable me moment. I was just George who was, being stabbed in the heart, just emotionally.
Yeah.
And then I came back, opened a new account, because I completely deleted it, built a new account, and I was like, okay, screw it, comments are turned off. Everybody else, you don't get as much hate because people can't be as anonymous on Facebook and Insta as they can be on TikTok. Because you'll get user 345978826, that's all these, and it's just, and then people find out through these things that it's people's family and friends and just being hateful to each other. I'm just like, oh my God. But I'm thick-skinned now about it, but I don't think I could handle the daily onslaught of TikTok hate. If I'm being very
I can't do it.
No.
I just can't be freaking stuffed with TikTok. I can't. Since I opened up, I've had a stalker on, this is an old friend that I no longer have anything to do with, parted with no qualms, anything, but she continually opens up new Facebook pages with fake accounts to absolutely slag me around town, to slag my Facebook, to just bring me down. And that the alcohol, and she gets fueled with it and goes on it, and it honestly, I don't wish her any harm. I just wish her healing. And I think I could not have time in my life to do that to someone.
No.
To spit venom at someone. If I don't like something, I just scroll on. Scroll on.
That's it. Yeah. Why stick
don't
around
get
for it? No, I don't get it either.
I don't.
No.
So, George, what's a bad day at work look like for you, other than this?
Okay, so there's two types. So as I said, like I had no choice. My guides moved me away from doing any psychic work years ago, so it's just spirit. So it's just me. One of the probably my bad day is when I open myself up 10 minutes before I start, and my spirit guides say, "No, you're not working today."
Oh, my worst fear.
And I'm like, is there a reason you're not working today? And I'm like, okay. Twice I've pushed through it. Twice was an absolute disaster. They just wouldn't let me connect. And I'm like, okay, so that's a really bad day because people waited maybe 9 months to come for an appointment, and I'm then cancelling like 10 minutes before someone's due. So the 12 o'clock, I'm like, hey, they're here. I'm so sorry. I need to apologize. Other people, I'm having to try and call or email to cancel. And you're letting people down who are still in some form of grieving process, or a family who booked a family booking and they're coming along and there's 5 of them coming, and it might be a mother and her children's wanting to speak to her son. And that means a lot to people. It means a lot. It is so valuable to their healing process. And then you do that and you cancel, and they just don't understand. And then my guides, I don't even question. If they say you're not working today, no problem. That's fine. You know better. I'm trusting that you know better, that you have a reason for that. I'm not getting in your way. You're in charge, not me. And that's a bad day on that side. The other bad day is when you do the work. I'll give you a very good example. I read for a client, and I'll try and be careful so I don't say too much. Her friend came in for the reading first. Her friend got through someone that was connected to the lady who was coming in next. This dude came in and gave loads of evidence that we knew without it was a doubt, because of the way that he died was really specifically unique, and that all came through. And so she left. The other lady came in, and so the dude that I connected to for the first lady didn't come through for her, and that's who she was waiting on. And so at the end, she went, "Oh, I really hoped that such and such would come through." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Yeah, he died in this really unique way." And she explained, and I was like, "Oh my God, he came through for your friend, and he said this and this and this and this." It was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" Like because it was to pass on the message to you, because he said that you wouldn't hear it. If he was speaking to you, you wouldn't hear it. And I didn't realize that when he was saying that to the first woman that it was about her. I just knew that it was the messenger was for the friend to tell his words because she would listen to it better. So she left, hugged me, thank you, oh my God, all this wonderfulness. She goes home and sends me one of the most hateful emails that I've ever received. Basically, like, I'm not here to pay to get a reading from you through my fucking friend. You're this, you're that, blah, blah, blah. Fuck you and your fucking reading, you're a BC or whatever. And when I read it, I was just like, okay, boom, refund. Screenshot, didn't say anything, screenshotted the refund, sent it over. I don't need your money. I don't want your money. I'm not interested. That's the kind of person you're going to be. You want to be that venomous and that hateful. That kind of energy will not serve you. You take that money because that money ain't going to bring you any luck. That money's not going to bring you any joy. Then there's a funny one. I bought this. David and I have the same sparkly jacket, right? So spot the gays with our glittery jackets, right? So, we have to fabulously effective, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I had this jacket, and this woman came to an event, and my partner does the tickets in the door and stuff, right? And he goes round and engages with everyone, and he's so superly friendly with everyone, and everyone's always saying, hey, how's Andrew, right? So this woman goes up as I start my demonstration, and she's like, I'm, fucking raging. I'm a spiritualist. This. And I've been doing this for 40 years. And how dare you wear that fucking jacket? Right? She was tormented. She ended up saying, you need to come outside because you're shouting over the top of George and he's reading for people. So anyway, he tells me this woman goes crazy. She was complaining about your sparkly jacket. I'm not a spiritualist because I'm standing up there with a sparkly jacket. Her whole thing was a sparkly jacket. So she booked a space at my old centre. My old centre was in Glasgow, and I've now bought my house in Shotts and turned it into my centre. So although it's still called Glasgow Spiritual Centre, we're now located in a little village called Shotts. And it was purposely bought to be my centre in my home. So anyway, she comes to the old centre, and there was a little kind of cupboard that I would just stay in so that I don't like to be influenced by anyone. So I don't want to see people before I start. I don't want to be influenced. I try to stay out the way. So when I come in, I'm not seeing who's come in and who's hugged each other and who's connected and whatever. And in a rows of people, I don't know who anyone is. So anyway, she's in the front row, but I didn't know. So as soon as I've stepped out and I've said, hey, everybody, it's so wonderful to see you. Thank you all so much for coming along this evening. This woman gets up and goes up to the back and starts shouting and bawling. And it's the same woman going off her nut that she's a spiritualist and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, because I really quite like my jacket. Like fuck you. I like my sparkly jacket. But yeah, that's a bad day because it's the hate. That's what I really say. It's like hate for no reason. Hate me on my work if you don't like the way that I work, if you don't like the reading I gave you, whatever. But don't persecute me because you didn't get what you want. Like in a reading, it says when you book with me, that you book and you understand that if I make a connection with spirit, I've done my job. It's not dialoghost.
Yeah.
It's not. But they think it's 118 spirit. One way, hi, can I speak to dad, please? And all the skeptics go, why not? Why not? Why can't you just connect with who they want? Because the spirit world are in charge. Because the intelligence of the spirit world is so great that they know what needs to be done. Also, the people who are the oldies and the newbies. Oldies not by age, but by length of service in the spirit world. The oldies know what they're doing. They've been in the spirit world for a long time. They know how to communicate without a voice box. They know how to blend with a medium. They know how to connect with a medium and communicate by manipulating their thoughts. Newbies sometimes take a little bit longer to learn. We don't know why. But sometimes someone who's been gone for 6 weeks maybe doesn't have the full understanding of how to connect with the medium and blend with the medium and communicate without the voice box. So the oldies come first. Great granddad. Well, I don't know my great granddad. Great granddad's been gone for 40 years. He knows how to work with a medium. So great granddad will come in, connect, and bring through your mum. Mum's only been gone 6 weeks. Mum might need a little bit more support from the spirit world. They don't even give that a thought.
No.
Bad
I always say they open the door for them. They help them through.
Absolutely.
So they get it.
The clients don't, not all clients, but most clients don't want to give that even a thought. They don't even want to consider that. So the first 5 minutes of my appointment is me explaining how I work so that they know how I do my thing. Because what they've done is they've watched people on TikTok do live readings and think that's it.
That's it,
Or
yeah.
Yeah.
you watch TV mediums, and all the TV mediums do is ask questions.
And it's all edited to look great, isn't it, as
Of course it
well?
is. So they ask the question, do you know someone in the spirit world that had an illness? Are you serious? Like, that's the question. Do you know someone who had an illness? Yes, we all know someone who passed with an illness. Rather than going, I've got your mum here, and she tells me that she passed with an illness, and she wants to say thank you for you being there and supporting her and whatever. You know, and if you don't get a name, if you don't get a name, you're rubbish. Like, you can give
Oh,
15 pieces of evidence. You don't get their name, you're shit.
Oh my God. But rubbish, I won't
God,
see him again.
Yeah.
I'd be out the door. I never get names, but you know what? I
Good.
don't get names. I never get names in real life. So if I'd met you in a group here and we're just talking and that, 5 minutes later, I'd be going, what the fuck is his name again? I don't remember
Absolutely.
names. I don't retain it. And I don't with Spirit World. And yesterday I had this question. I'm like, the Spirit, why don't I get names? Like, why are you giving me names? Today I got a name. I'm just like, oh, okay. Okay.
Mine's
So
would be
go
quite
figure.
that. So I pissed them off, right? So years ago, I used to get names quite a lot. And I said to my guides, it was like, that's it. But as I didn't know how to connect my guides back then, but I just said to the spirit world, I'm not giving names anymore. I'm not doing it because everyone's got a John and a Margaret and a Mary. And I was like not realizing I was in my ego. So I'm like, I'm not giving names. And I woke up the next morning to silence. Do you know Spirit didn't speak to me for 4 weeks?
Wow.
Nothing. Cancel clients, cancel a charity event, nothing. And it took me 4 weeks to realize that I was in my ego and I was only thinking about me and how I looked to the room of people or to the client. That actually maybe John is important and that I can give more evidence to back that up, that that's their dad. But so then, since then, with the lesson that I learned, I don't get names. It's very, very rare. But I also don't believe you're defined by your name.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
name's on a bus pass or a passport. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So me, George, that tells you nothing about me.
No.
Nothing. So why is it that if you don't get a name that you're rubbish? Why is that? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if people find it so impressive. I don't know, because
Yeah.
I always say there's more. Your name does not define you, but
Yes.
the character, the personality, those other characteristics they have, all the other bits of evidence are far more important than giving a name. Sometimes, yes, you might give a name because spirit know that's an important thing to give in that reading.
Yeah.
But some readings don't get a name at all because I believe spirit feel that actually there's more important things for me to tell you than my name because you know my name, you
100%.
know it. But
Yeah.
what you want is this bit. You want to know what's going on around you now, so you know I'm having a look, see what you're doing. It's those
Absolutely.
things. So I don't know why. I don't know why. It's just it's so important and impressive.
I
I don't
think
know.
there's a lot of edited material out there in social media where they cut and paste and make it all glamorous. Oh, look at her. She's getting that name. She's getting that. She's getting that. But then you go book a reading with them, and the reading's absolutely rubbish. You don't get any of what they're advertising, and that's what's scary. But at the end of the day, when your mum rings, she doesn't go, hi, it's Jan here. She goes, hi, it's mum here.
Mm.
She doesn't say your first name. So why is she going to say it in the spirit world?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I listened to a podcast yesterday with Hannah McIntyre,
Me
and she
too.
and she described that she went to a medium who she'd seen online, looking really fabulous, had a reading with her, and the medium gave her 17 names, and
And
she
nothing fit.
and she only take one of
Nothing.
them. So people, a name does not mean anything. If it's if it's if you don't get a name, you don't get a name. And if you do get a name, you want it to be specific. You don't want it to be your neighbour who lived down the road 25 years ago, who you didn't really speak to but spoke to your grandparents. It's that. Do you know what I mean? So it's making sure people that you accept or and you're open to whatever's supposed to come through for you. And with that said, George, what if you were to give a set of expectations to a sitter, whether they come to see you for a private reading or demonstration, what expectations would you say to them? What should they expect from a reading?
So, one, that I will not ask any questions, because I don't believe any medium or psychic should ask a client a question. That we should only provide factual, evidential pieces of information that they can validate with a yes, no, I don't know. Yes, no, I don't know being correct, incorrect, or something that the client would not know the answer to, because an I don't know is not wrong. It's just that you don't know. A no is an indication that me as the medium has got it wrong, and I will hold my hand up to that and go back to and say, could you show me that information and evidence in a different way, please? That they know that I'm not going to look at them while I read for them, because I don't want them to think that I'm being influenced by their body language, which I would be honest, if I did look at them, I probably would be, because humanly we see a reaction and a response. So I don't look at them, and it's been the way I've worked for probably 15 plus years that I push myself away from that, probably around the same time that everything really started to build, being less psychic and more mediumistic. And then it would be that I am here to prove the existence of eternal life through the power of communication, through me bringing through what evidence can be provided from the loved ones. I also do say it's not dialogos. I'm not going to put in a request, and at the end of the day, I'm a glorified parrot. I will repeat exactly what I'm told. And that's it. I'm going to repeat what the spirit will tell me, and that's it. The client, I will say that the appointment lasts normally anything between 20 and 45 minutes. But again, I take all my guidance from spirit. So you can book an hour's massage and you get an hour massage. You don't get that with a reading, because if we're at the mercy of the spirit world. But let's put it this way. Someone who does a standard 30-minute appointment, blended reading, psychic and mediumship, they could get 4 minutes of mediumship and the rest of it is psychic. The client wouldn't know. The client wouldn't know, because what they can do is, as they're turning the cards and they're talking about this and that, they can say, oh, because your mum said so, and your mum is showing me that, and whatever. But maybe mum isn't. Maybe mum's only given 4 minutes of evidential information. And so the rest of that 30-minute appointment is made up with them psychically reading the person. And the person doesn't know any different. But I don't have any other tools. It's just me. So it's just the client sitting in the corner, I'm sitting behind where we are now, not facing my client. But it's all about making sure that they know that my job is to give evidence about people that are no longer here, to give the spirit world a voice. But it's also that at the end of the day, it's up to them what's said. Even though I book an hour or between each appointment, it's so that we have time for the intro. They need to coffee. I'll make them tea, coffee, water, nip to the loo, and also to then calm them down, because sometimes you sense they're so tight, scared. And so then I'll just tell a story of whatever comes up to try and just get them from there to there, so that they're relaxed enough that they're going to feel okay. But also that I want them to know that they're part of this. You bring me a bed and you leave with you, and I need you to respond. You need to communicate back to me so that I know that I'm interpreting the information correctly. Also, that they know that the way that it works is there isn't a voice box. So through the spirit communication, it's information that's dropped into the medium's mind that then is projected onto the screen of the mind, which is called clairvoyance. So it's just a TV screen. So the thoughts and memories come in. Those thoughts and memories become a picture in a video. The picture in a video then gives you an emotional reaction. I then get my client to think of a happy memory from their childhood. And they do. And then I'm like, great. What you've done there is exactly how spirit communicate. You had a thought that became a memory. The memory became a picture in a video. That picture in a video gave you an emotional response. You had one memory. I am going to have multiple memories and stories from 3 people that I don't know. And my job is to interpret that evidence, because George needs to push his consciousness to the side. So George's conscious mind is held here the entire time, while George, the medium, creates a space in the mind for it all to take place. Yeah. And that's what a lot of students don't think about. We have to push our conscious mind to the side. Yeah. We don't, and we don't retain that, then what happens is you see the client, the spirit world give you a rose, and then I think of my great-grandmother. Oh, Nana Rosie. Oh, she had lung cancer. Oh, she had 10 children. She worked in the mill as a child. She died at 72. That's all my memories. So George just dropped out of his power, dropped into his own conscious mind. But the rose that was being given from the spirit world might be that there was a rose at the funeral that was all pressed into, acrylic, and they all have it in a frame. That could be the evidence. Not, oh, would your grandmother be Rose? No. Would she die of cancer? No. Like, because then that's me. It's all my memories intoxicating the evidence. Sorry, I think I sidestepped
Yeah.
there.
No,
No, it's great. No, it's fantastic. I feel like your students have got so much like on offer with you. Like you're this if I was a student there, I would be just like a sponge. I would be there absorbing everything, taking everything on. Being on this side of the world, it's so hard because for me to train, I have to train with someone over there to
Yeah.
get the level of mediumship that I need. I
Yeah.
find that Australian mediums and American mediums, they're very surface level mediums. The mediumship in the UK and Scotland is so much deeper. It's, all that evidence, get all that evidence. So for me, I don't have that option. I have to train online, and I have to come over to the UK. So all I can say is the people over there, if this is at your doorstep, you need to be sucking this up because they are so lucky, We don't have that luxury here.
I
But
just think
how,
that, sorry, Nicole.
no. So with that, how long did it take you to, through your journey, decide to go, I'm going to open up my spiritual center? Like, what made you decide that?
So I done readings from my conservatory in my couple of old houses ago. Um, and then I was like, maybe I should teach. So I taught in my home that didn't work well with my ex-husband. So that was a bit of a disaster. And then I started to hire like community centre spaces and do teaching that way.
Mm.
And then the cost was then impacting on the people because of the cost of the venue. And then I didn't want things to be overpriced because people then wouldn't pay for overpriced. And so everything had to be reasonable. And so I decided that I would take on a space in the city, and I did. And then I don't know, I just felt my passion for teaching. I don't know, I felt the makeup and the chemistry wasn't all there. I then took on a little 2.5 meter long studio space to do readings. And I just done readings and events, and that was it. And I really, really didn't. And then yeah, I just woke up one morning and my guides, who don't bother me any other time, unless it's something, and I'm like, okay. And so it was just like, you need to move. So I just said to my partner, Andrew, I was like, I need to find a center. I need to find a space. So I made appointments, went out, walking about, and I just seen this building with this big sign on it. And I was like, didn't think of that. This is really, really central. Like, it's right in the heart of the city, like pinpoint right in the city. So I phoned and they were like, oh, it's 4 p.m. And like my last viewing appointment at that point was 11:30. So I'm walking about and I was just almost ready to give up. And I was going to compromise now. I realised that for another space, because the price comparison, my 2.5 meter room to then doing this was 5 times the price. Seeing this, then I seen the place at 4 o'clock, and I was just like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. This is it. So I went home and I said to Spirit, okay, you wanted me to find somewhere. I found somewhere. If this is right, you're going to have to give me a really, really loud sign, like a big, big one. Woke up the next morning at 9:30, picked up my phone, had my coffee, opened my emails, and my current landlord in my 2.5 meter space said, hey, we're serving your eviction notice. Yeah, no reason. It wasn't bad. It was just that they needed the space. They had moved, the landlord who owned the building had moved their business into the thing, and they needed to take over the full floor. And so they needed my space. And and it was just like, there is the sign.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me, that at that point, and I never realised that Glasgow Spiritual Centre would become what it's become now. And then the rent and service charge just kept going up and up and up, and eventually I had to move, which is why I bought where I am now. But yeah,
Amazing.
best as
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow. You have to send me photos. I want to see what it looks
well.
like.
It's amazing. And following from that, George, you also came up with, it's probably the wrong term, but you started to put on the Glasgow Spiritualist Fair. I'm probably saying it completely wrong, but the Spiritual and Wellness Fair in Glasgow as well. So what triggered that? What inspired that thought?
So my mum says that I'm always really ballsy. Like I'll take things on and challenges on that like most people would run a mile from. And I'd done like small spiritual fairs way back like 10 plus years ago. And I noticed there was all these people. So before lockdown, I wanted to make I started a home fragrance business, like wax melts, diffusers, plugins, room sprays, and so on. And through that, I was obviously seeing all this wellness and home, like how people really were into just wellness in general. And I just thought maybe there's people out there. So I started to just look on Insta for businesses that were then selling crystals and tarot decks and again wax melts and all these things. But then there's all these readers that I was training at the centre who were at a point that they were wanting to step out into the world, but they didn't know how to get themselves from here to the outside world, and they didn't want to do house parties. So, because a house party just breeds 7:30 at night, you've been working all day, you then go there, they're drinking, you try to tell them not to drink, they're sneaking drink. By the time you do your last reading, they're not even engaged. They don't care because they're so drunk. Even though you tell them that you don't accept alcohol before the reading, they still have drink. And then it's an argument with the money and all that stuff. And I thought, how can I create a space that is prestigious enough that is going to kind of give an air of this is something, not just like a community hall with some tables and whatever, but I wanted to really offer something that was really, really quite unique. So I came up with the idea of Glasgow Spiritual and Holistic Fair, and there's a really prominent building in Glasgow called the Glasgow Royal Concert Hall. And lots of people will go there and perform. You've got like Gladys Knight and Michael Bublé, and all these people will perform and sing and concerts and orchestra and whatever. And then there's like other conventions like Comic-Con and things like that. I've been there before. So I just reached out, went and toured the space. And originally my idea was this one room. And I'd done a demonstration in there years ago. You just hire the space, and it's actually really, really quite expensive. And I went along and I was just like, oh my God. But then I realized, the room that I thought I wanted to have the fair in wasn't going to work. So I then was like, well, I can then have my readings here. I can have my treatment people above that, and the quietest space in the building. So it holds 14. I can put 8 people in there offering treatments of like healing and massage and reflexology and ear seeds and all these things. And then that's silent, quiet. There's no drumming. There's no loud bangings. It's all, because you've got to do these things and 2 people outside of the room, and it's just noise, right? Yeah. So my rules are up there. There's no instruments. You can play some meditation music from the space, but that's it. So then people are going there to completely detach. And then the vendors that are doing that can really have a space that's focused, and it's a lot of them it's all mixed in one. So you have stalls, readings, and treatments all in the one room. But I wanted to create a space that was separate. So you would do your private readings in one room, your treatments in another, and then in the other space, I would have an exhibition hall where everyone sells their products. Different types of crystals, different types of decks, different types of wellness products, people that do like really interesting, spooky, like hand-poured resin stuff. There's just some incredible vendors. And I wanted to give these people a platform. That's all I wanted to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can do 2 events in a pub or a theatre and make more money than I make doing the fair, right? I quite easily can do a Thursday and a Friday evening in 1 week, work for 6 hours in total between set up, do the thing, leave, make more money, do it. So it's not about the money. It's about giving people the platform. And it is hard work. It is so much coordination. The red tape with the building is really, really, really strict. I've been doing it now for 3 years in that building, and the prestige of it has really given it an air of. And so the readers, there's 20 readers, and those readers are all sold out by midday. Open at 10, they're fully booked, all 20 of them, and they're doing 20-minute slots. And they're fully booked the full day, which is incredible. Healing people, same idea. Then the vendors, we had one on Saturday, we had over 600 people footfall coming through the door. which is just incredible that 600
Mm.
people gave their time to come along and be at our thing. Now, of course, it's not like the one at the Olympia in London. Like, that's a big daddy. That's a huge, huge big thing. And they've got huge big speakers from around the world, and Hay House is there, and all these big, big names and whatever. I'm happy with what I've created so far.
Yeah.
I'm now looking at a point of I want a second location in Glasgow, but I want to make it more smaller and a smaller scale. And then I want to do Edinburgh. And the idea is to kind of branch out in Scotland first and see where I can go from there. But the answer, the short version of that question is I wanted to give people who had a dream, who created a bit of magic in their kitchen for someone, to give them an opportunity to have a platform to create magic for other people. And that's it. That's really what it's about. It's to be a space to create, one, that people have a dream and a passion to create a space that they're able to create magic for others. That's all it's about.
And that's about what we say about the Glenda, you're on mute, my darling. Can't hear you. No. Oh, Glenda's muted herself. But yeah, it's about what we always talk about, George. It's about building each other up. There's so much in the industry about divides and slag that person off, and let's badmouth that person. Actually, we should build each other up, supporting each other's abilities, and not going the opposite. So, George, just being conscious of the time, we've got some final questions for you. So the first one will be, how has mediumship contributed to your personal growth and healing journey? And what insights or lessons have you gained through this work?
It's changed.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's changed. It single-handedly changed my life because it's made me more patient, because I'm an Aries and I'm a hothead. It's made me more patient. It's made me more understanding of being able to see things from the opposite side of the fence. Now, I'm human, and sometimes I'll lose the patience, but it's allowed me that. It's allowed me to realize that when I think things are shit in my life, that there's other people who come through the door who have it 10 times harder. It has contributed to me. Is the thing is, it's every single day it teaches me that life is a lesson, and I have to look at that lesson is important to share with others, so that I'm able to then allow that understanding of that we're more than what we are right now. It allows me the opportunity to meet some of the most incredible people that I've ever met in my life. It allows us to bridge gaps around the world, that we get to talk about our passion and our love and our care. And yeah, we can have a little bitch and a moan about how things are done, but if we don't talk about these things, then the people who are coming up behind us don't, and they don't know. And look at me going to the library at 18 to try and educate myself, and now we have people from 3 different parts of the world that can speak about it's because we care. And we love it so much, and we want truth out there, and we want people to learn and be okay and to be safe. I'd probably say that's what it's taught me hugely, and the lessons it's given me is that we are all spiritual beings having this human experience. We really are.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Glenda, last question for you, or from you.
Oh, and we're going to ask the last question.
Yeah, I mean, we could be here all day talking to George, because it's
I just have to
fabulous.
ask George. I have to ask George my question. George, does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
You and David can go over there. That's what's that 2-1.
Yeah.
We have this debate. Okay, you got that one. You got that one, David. Okay, so the last question is, George, imagine today is your last day on Earth. What 3 truths or lessons would you want to leave behind for the world based on your experiences, insights, that you've gained through mediumship in life?
Oh, wow. What 3 truths or lessons that mediumship? Say that again. Let me think about that.
What? Okay, so what are your 3 truths or your 3 lessons you would like to leave behind that you've gained through being a medium?
That we are bigger than what we actually are, that we are bigger and we're more divinely connected to each other than we are, that there's so much more happening than this idea of this white smoky room in the sky. That everyone is hurting. Everyone
Yeah.
at some level, at some point in a day, a week, a month, and a year is hurting, but we're all hurting in the same way. That mediumship is the peril of great price. I think that's the way to say it. I'm sure it's a quote from Mavis. That there's so much weight behind the words that we convey from the spirit world, and sometimes some people take advantage of those words, and they don't give any sort of care about what they do because it's transactional. It's just about money.
Yeah.
There are reasons why people like us are brought together to educate the world in our lessons and our journey. Because somebody at some point will listen to this and go, I learned something from that. Or it made them think. Now, that might be someone developing. That might be a mother or a father who has lost their son. And they're searching for answers. And through those answers, they maybe find one of us to book for an appointment, or they find a little bit of hope to know that their loved ones are actually there. And I always say to people, don't come to a medium for that. Take our words. Your loved ones are always around. Always. That's all they want to do is show that they're there. And you don't need a medium for that. I think it's hugely I think we are devalued so much by the work that is now being done in the masses for gifts and likes and follows and shares. And the value now becomes on how many likes someone has over the content of the work that they can actually provide. If someone has more followers, which they'd probably bought.
Yeah.
If someone has more followers, they're a better medium. And there's a particular gentleman that will remain nameless that does TikTok, and he has hundreds of thousands of followers. And he tells people that children who die are nothing, and they're absorbed into the mother. And
wow.
So survived. I'll tell you who it is when we hang up. But this person has hundreds of thousands of followers. And it devalues the work. But why are we doing our work? To make sure that people who really require the healing, because the spirit world send us who we need. The people need us and we need them. And in that balance, they provide us something, we provide them something. And I don't mean monetary. I mean beyond that side of things.
Yeah.
Because it's a soul to soul level.
Absolutely.
Things I apologize.
Amazing. Well, Georgia, we could speak to you all day long.
I know.
But
I've fallen in love with you.
Yeah, we could do a follow-up at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
To follow up, because I know you've got so much experience and knowledge and wisdom to share. So maybe this conversation might continue at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, George, I want to thank you once again for coming on today and sharing with us, your experience, again, your life, your knowledge, your wisdom, and that very down to earth way that we love, because that's what we do here.
Absolutely.
That's what we do here. So people listening, we thank you as always for tuning in to our podcast. Hope you enjoyed that. There'll be more episodes to come, more guests to come. But as we always say, if you have any questions you want us to address or answer, any topics you want us to talk about, then please do get them into us as well. But Glenda, as always, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, David. Thank you, George.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been an absolute joy. Honestly, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Well, take care, everybody, and we'll speak to you all in another episode.
Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.